So, big news that caught me off guard today. What a great start to 2026 and Happy New Year to all of you. Johnson Johnson have submitted Ottava for their FDA submission under De Novo for upper GI procedures. And I guess their IDE will allow them to do what they call an umbrella procedure, which means that procedure allows them to do a lot of other things on upper GI. So, so big news. And they originally said Q1. I was being pessimistic and said, I think as they're being so quiet, they were going to be the end of Q1, maybe Q2, maybe mid-year for the submission. But they've surprised me, and kudos to the team there at J&J for doing that. They've managed to actually submit it ahead of what I thought. So that means they've submitted it now. It can take about 8 months, 9 months to basically get through the De Novo process with the FDA, see how fast that goes through. J&J does have an amazingly good regulatory team. So and they've been working on this a long time and they've been putting a lot of money at it. So I guess that there's a good chance that there is a chance they could actually get commercial release of the product before the end of the year. There is a chance that before the end of 2027 they could get the commercial release. And it is interesting because they've got the upper GI, but what it also means is that they've also submitted a second IDE, which is for hernia, which again is a good procedure for them to go after. It's a big procedure. And it means that basically now you've got Intuitive on the market and you've got Medtronic on the market in the USA, which are two of the big companies, and the third big leg of the stool that joins them is then Johnson Johnson would be Ottava. So you could by the end of this year potentially see the three big players on the market in the US for large format robotics. Doesn't preclude all the other ones that have done a great job, the distal motions, the moons, the CMR surgicals, etc. The reason I'm talking a little bit here about the Johnson Johnson one being one of the big three is that there are three big companies in this space. There's Intuitive Surgical with DaVinci, there's Medtronic with HUGO RAS, and there will be, I think by the end of this year, Johnson Johnson with Ottava. Three different formats, quite interesting. So you've got the boom format that's coming from the DaVinci, which is the tried, tested, well-known for 20 years format that works well, and the DaVinci 5 is pushing ahead there. Then you've got the modular robot with the open console that comes from Medtronic with HUGO RAS, which is a different format, each arm on a cart with an open console, so you're not down in the Rhino, you're actually sort of sitting upright and looking at a 3D screen with glasses on. And then you've got J&J's Ottava, which is bed mounted, which I've been a little bit critical of, and maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it is a better format than I think, but you've got the bed mounted Ottava, which is with the closed console, so the immersive console that you go into, which is very much like a DaVinci 5 sort of immersive console. So you'll have three formats to choose from, which I think will be really exciting for hospitals, really exciting for customers, and there'll be a lot of customers who have been waiting to get hold of different systems than the DaVinci. I still believe strongly in my heart that the DaVinci is the workhorse that everyone's going to rely on. I still think that it's really hard with the ecosystem that's in place on the DaVinci that people are going to usurp the DaVinci. But I do see that, Medtronic and J&J will start to have systems come in and be alongside the DaVincis in many of the hospitals. But I think there'll be a much lower number of them. But I think it's great news for the industry. I think it's great news for surgeons. I think it's brilliant news for patients because, the more choice that we have in there, the better it is for everybody. Again, not wanting to discount the smaller players. You've got your CMR surgicals, you've got your distal motions, you've got your moon surgicals, you've got a whole host of other players on the market in there. But I think the three that are going to make the biggest difference in this market in the USA are Intuitive, which are going to remain the dominant player for a long time. You've got Medtronic, which will be the alternative for those that want it more like a laparoscopic kind of approach and feel. And then you have the third alternative, which is where if you want to be in the Johnson Johnson ecosystem and you want to have a bed mounted system, then I think that Ottava will be the option that those people will take. There is, talk about the fact that a bed mounted system doesn't occupy floor space in the same way, so therefore could be towards the ASC. And I've written a whole thing just recently on how I do believe that Intuitive also will come up with some kind of bed mounted system, maybe for the ASC. But the Ottava is potentially targeted more at the ASC. That is fairly open and green field for now. Intuitive are not that well established into there, and there is a drive to go to the ASC, and there's a whole thing I can talk about on that, about cost and making sure you got throughput and stuff. Coming back to today's news, there is going to be a ton of news coming out over the next couple of months, and I'm going to try and keep you abreast of it. Some I can share with you now, like the Johnson Johnson one, which I found out just today as well with everybody else. But there's other news that's potentially going to come in the coming months and over the year that I can't talk about, but I'm really excited to see some of the stuff that's coming out here. I think you will see as well a lot of software drops as well. So just as I mentioned this today, you may or may not know, but there's the Iris system by DaVinci, and that's the segmentation system from preoperative imaging. That's just got a boost and an upgrade as well, and I think they might announce that soon. Yeah, so I think there's going to be just a load of software updates. There's going to be a load of instrument updates. There's going to be a load of hardware updates. There's going to be new clearances. There's going to be expanded indications for a lot of the companies, and I think it's going to become a really exciting competitive place in 2027. And I will talk about the other platforms as well in 2027, and I will do a review. This was just a quick one today, so I apologize for the formatting. It seems to look very yellow today as well. I'm going to give an update on 2026 and my predictions for where we're going to go with robotics in 2026 across all the platforms, from surgical robotics, from endoluminal robotics, cardiovascular robotics, neurovascular robotics. I'm going to talk about the whole gamut of robotics that's going to come with the data and AI and the things that I'm going to predict for 2026. Just got to get around to it. But big news today is Johnson Johnson has dropped Ottava in for de novo clearance with the FDA, so fingers crossed for them that they'll get that and there'll be no hiccups between now and then. And that's big and exciting news. And again, I am tough sometimes on some of the companies with the good intention, but I will give full credit out to J&J Medtech. They've done a superb job to get that back on track and hit the milestones that they've claimed recently. And this one, which I think people should take notice of, is that it's actually ahead of where I think everybody had it pinned. So that's just really good on behalf of J&J, and well done to that entire team. Catch you soon.